Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about AMC liquidating the shorts, $687 per share, the bullish breakout, and many more in this video. Firstly, what we're looking at is today breaking $1.2 trillion wide from US market. Meanwhile, AMC is one of the only stocks in the green. So if you take a look at the market today, what you will see is red all along. We're seeing so many different stocks all obviously dropping in price, yet AMC is able to stay stable. AMC is actually up and was up 2%, but is still up 0.68% as we closed. And now there's of course the crypto market as well that I'll be talking about later on, but this is what we talked about with how AMC does not correlate with the whole market. This is the sort of movement we should be looking at. It isn't to say that when the market drops 2%, AMC is going to go up 200%, but it's talking about how AMC is able to stay stable while the rest of the markets are all dropping. One of the things we've mentioned in the past is talking about how AMC has been quoted to be a recession-proof stock. And within the industry, the whole industry is a recession-proof industry as well. Now, for AMC, it is of course double that. The reason for this is because AMC, not only is it within a recession-proof industry, but because of its investor base made up of retail investors who also won't sell, unlike the institutions who have to trim their positions in a moment of crash, this is what makes them even more stable than the others within the same industry. And this is what we are witnessing right now. Now, one thing to note is that, fun fact, the aggregate drop in market cap of Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Nvidia during the last 2 hours corresponds to $687 per AMC share. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is firstly, it's an interesting fact, but it's secondly, how it also relates with AMC. We've always known how these institutions all use these massive companies as collaterals. We've seen it with Netflix, we've seen it with Nvidia, and it won't surprise us to see any of these stocks on the list to also be used as collateral. Now, talking about why it correlates with AMC is firstly the link between shorts using these as collaterals to short AMC, but also talking about what we've just said here. When these stocks are all dropping, AMC isn't. And so you can see how when the collateral, when the value is being transferred away, what we're looking at in the future is that when we are looking at a massive crash, and we're not talking, today won't consider it as a crash, it is just a normal pullback. But if we're looking at the whole market crashing, what we can be looking at is how AMC will go up hundreds of dollars within seconds because of the collateral evaporating and being used on AMC. And so it's why we always focus on things like this, and we understand again what we said at the start about how AMC is within a recession-proof industry and how strong AMC is. You can see with AMC starting to move higher towards a breakout and bullish diversions are weekly, I wouldn't be surprised to see GME recapture the 50 MA here, printing a nasty bullish hammer and starting the run on a bank holiday. Now, I want to talk about this because it's about understanding that AMC is being extremely stable right now. And so if we're seeing these banks, if we're seeing these shorts scatter and get worried as their collateral is dropping, even though AMC is not dropping, what we're going to be looking at is the weakening of the short sellers. And we've said every time we see a weakening of short sellers, no matter who is caused by first, so whether it's AMC who caused it or GME who caused it, the other stock will also benefit from this. So if AMC right now is causing weaknesses towards these short sellers, we're going to be seeing GME following up very nicely along with it. But it's also talking about how GME has also made impact recently, which we'll again talk about later on. Now, you can also see another indications of how these short sellers are trying to cling on what's left. You can see banks are clinging to what's left of their liquidity. $4.1 billion parked at the Fed, big difference from the more than $2 trillion a few years back. So if you take a look at the reverse repo, something we've been keeping a close eye on, what you'll see is that at $4.124 billion. So this is obviously being a massive, massive drop. Now, the reason why this is important, as many of you should know by now, is because this has always been the easy liquidity that these short sellers gain access to, that these banks gain access to in order to have the money to suppress AMC. Now, The reason why we're focusing on this right now, especially right now, is because we're looking at the collaterals. We're looking at how much money these short sellers have. So we're looking at the reverse repo dropping to 4.12 billion, and it's close to dropping to zero. If we're taking a look at the whole market of $1.2 trillion being wiped out, we're seeing how the liquidity for these short sellers are slowly drying up. And that itself is a very good indication for us. We can essentially use it as the countdown. It isn't to say it's giving us a definite countdown or a detailed countdown, because we still don't know how long it will take. But what we're seeing is the weakening of the short sellers. Now, furthermore, it's about seeing the crypto market right now. What you'll see is that crypto is in full-on liquidation mode as banks raise cash. So many different factors. Firstly, if you take a look at the crypto market right now, what you're of course seeing is just massive drops within the market. Now, this is obviously very, very crazy, and is of course very, very big, especially because of what's happening. Now, there's multiple reasons for this. Firstly, once again, crypto is being used as collaterals. And what we're seeing is how shorts previously used crypto as a collateral for AMC shorts are now seeing crypto fall. So that's their collaterals also dropping. But not only that, it's because it served as a way for these banks to raise cash. And we've just talked about it. With the reverse repo dropping to $4 billion, you are seeing how much in need of cash these banks, these institutions are. And so as we're seeing these, whether it's crypto or the market getting liquidated, it's all showing a form of in need of capital, in need of liquidity. That's the whole reason why they will liquidate. And so if we're seeing how they're in a state where they're in illiquid, where they're in need of liquidity, where they're in need of cash, you start to understand just how distressed they are. And this is why we've talked about how AMC is liquidating these short sellers, how AMC is applying pressure. Now, it isn't just to do with AMC, of course, but we've seen how much AMC has applied pressure to these institutions. When you take a look at what GME and AMC swaps have done to Credit Suisse, to Archegos, even to UBS right now, you understand how much pressure we really have. And this is just a form of seeing it. Another reason for why we're looking at this and why we potentially could be seeing certain short sellers getting liquidated is because of this. Found the culprit, carry trade just unwound in size again. Right before Bitcoin and SPY sold off hard, yen continues to be the barometer to watch in global macro. And so this is what we've said with the yen carry trade. Now, we've always took a look at this, and we talked about how the yen carry trade is linked to multiple things, multiple institutions as well. And we've said how much exposure Citadel has towards these yen carry trade, and we talked about how much margin and collateral is also tied up to this as well. So as we're seeing this getting unwounded, as we're seeing this being sell off, it's why we're looking at all of these shorts, all of these institutions, all in stress of money right now. And previously, we've highlighted the exposure Citadel has with the yen carry trade. And so if we're seeing the yen carry trade worsening, and we're seeing Citadel being heavily affected by this, what you're going to be looking at is the liquidation of not just the overall market, but when you look at it specifically, it will be the massive liquidations from Citadel and any other short sellers as well. And the reason why we're of course focusing on Citadel is because how much of a interaction they have, how much of a relationship they have with AMC short. And so if we're seeing Citadel getting liquidated, we're going to be seeing the AMC short positions getting liquidated, and we're of course going to be seeing the squeeze of AMC. And so that's why we're paying close attention to this. Now, something interesting, and it's talking about what we've said earlier with how GME is also applying pressure towards the shorts. You can see 0 of my broker provided GME warrants were delivered as whole warrants. And so that's what we are looking at here. Now, this is obviously a very interesting site. Every single one is a fractional, as you guys can see here. Now, the reason why I've said this is because of what the warrant has been doing, what we were warned of the warrants. And you can even see here how Chase sold this guy's particular warrants. Now, we mentioned this yesterday, and I want to follow up on this, and this isn't just to leave on this bit of information, is that the after story is he did get it back. Yes, I called them first thing in the morning when I noticed it's been sold. They told me it was a system-wide glitch for all GME warrants, and they reappear in the next few days. But I noticed before the market closed, warrants were back in my account. So what he saw was firstly his warrants being sold, and then it was then returned to him as warrants. Now, the thing that's found it interesting about this is because firstly, we've seen how warrants were delivered as fractional, not as whole, and that's already giving some things to obviously consider about. But secondly, is how yesterday we actually talked, multiple people have already talked about warrants not being delivered, and the fact we're seeing this, and we even said how warrants were in under different QSIP. So the reset of these warrants could be the reset of the synthetic shares as well, and that's why we've said the warrants is applying pressure. GME is applying pressure. Now, as always, none of this is ever financial advice, so do take what as a grain of salt. Make sure to do your own due diligence research, and I'll catch you guys next time.